Okay, dude, I just had the most intense dream, and
I just had a fucking wild dream.
I just want to talk about the psychedelic qualities of my dreams.
What up, Jesse? JP in the house.
Trippy.
Okay, I just had this crazy dream last night, so I gotta tell you.
They're very, very strange.
Anyway, I was with my brother and some friends who went out drinking and dancing and stuff like that. And while we were out and stuff, I ended up going to this restaurant that was, I don't know why it was open 24 hours, it was open 24 hours. And it was owned by some of my Indian friends and from India. And I would go there and stuff. And even now, like if I go there and sometimes I'll leave my money in a car and they'll just tell me to pay next time. But not everything, but like maybe 50 cents or something like that. You know, they're real cool and stuff like that. And what happened, or sometimes I get like free food or free drinks and stuff like that. It's a trip. But
and so we're sitting in this dinner party in front of we're like at these circle tables at this like banquet hall, and like all the employees are around and sitting at their tables, and he like points out two guys that have guns and that are ready to like kill everybody, and then he says, "Dave, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're fired." And I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? I'm fired, and there's two guys with guns under the tables at like the front of the room, and I was really confused, and then they pulled out their guns, and I was so devastated that I was fired that somehow I managed to find a gun.
Big fucking shotgun. I did. Big shotgun. And,
yeah, so I pulled out the gun under some, like, old person's table, and I start shooting at him, and everybody stands up and starts going crazy, and they're all like in a crowd, and so they can't really shoot me, but they're not going for anybody else, they're just going for me.
Across the street with the gun, got in the house.
Hallway, and they run after me. One of them runs after me, and I turn around like Clint Eastwood, and I whip my gun out, and I just shoot the guy right in the forehead, and his head just explodes.
You went right up to the bird, and you put the frickin' gun right on the bird like this, and bam, you shot it, right? I'm like, what are you doing? You go, I shot the bird. And I didn't even want to look because I said, how could you miss it?
I pop right around the corner from the hallway, and he's standing right there, and he punches me right in the face, and I fly like 10 feet back, and he's like, you're gonna die. So he goes after me, and I'm scared that he's gonna like choke me out. So I instinctively see the gun like right. It was like plastered up against the wall. Like there was no such thing as gravity in my world. So I guess it's just fake. But there was a gun plastered against the wall, and there was no tape on it. It was just floating against the wall. And so I grab it, and he's about an inch from my gun, and I just go boom, and then he falls to the ground. And
to do, and then jump cut in your dreams. You know how that happens.
So me and Courtney, we go outside in the snow, and we're like, "Oh, it's so pretty out here. It's so pretty." And then it was like some guy in the snow just standing there, and we're like, "Who the heck is that? That man crazy? He's a creeping tin." So we're like, we're gonna avoid him. So we walk away, and when we turn around,
this tank or big Hummer thing. My friend is in there. There's this big guy, and he's driving it, and he's got these big black gloves on. And he's driving the car, and he's like hurting us, I guess. So she's in there, and like I decide to save her, and it's kind of like a Jeep where you can like the trunk is kind of like open. So like jump in the trunk. Her body is out of the window, and she's holding on to the window, and she's like standing on the side of the car, and he's still driving, and it's like driving around my neighborhood. He was like trying to hurt us, and then we start stabbing him. She has this hook thing. It's like the butt end of a crowbar. Then I have this glorified steak knife. Oh my god! And he had these huge tentacles coming out of his back. I forgot about that. That was why it was so hard to kill him, because he had these
Scary
huge
part.
tentacles coming out of his
I heard
neck.
screaming.
We had to
I
kill
don't
the
know who it was.
tentacles before we could get to the guy.
These girls came whipping around the corner, 2 girls, to come into Grandpa's house. They were like sisters or something, I don't know. And this guy was beating them with this thing. And I was like, so freaking real, man. And I didn't have a chance to even get the gun out to do anything.
And then my friend, this guy that was part of the game earlier, sun went away again, takes the plug that was plugged in the side of this giant car and he unplugs it and all the tentacles just fall. So like all the tentacles were not a problem anymore. Then we go for the guy. We start like stabbing him all the places and he is not dying. This is when she's hanging outside of the window. Like people like cheering us on, like our friends from that game. They're like, stab him in the chest, stab him in the head. And so I'm like stabbing him in the back of the head, in the arms, in the everything. My friend starts stabbing him in the chest. Now, I was like, no, you're not getting it, because she was outside the window and she was stabbing like the side of his chest. Like, no, give it to me. And I take my knife and I take it from her and then I start stabbing him in the chest. I'll just like nick the jugular vein. I get so far into his neck. He starts reaching for me with these big black leather gloves, wraps his hand around my knife, and he's like, these gloves don't cut. And then he like grabs the knife and then he pulls it out and then he shows me his hand. There's like a big cut. It didn't cut through. Comes at me with the knife. I somehow like grab it from him. Since I cut so far into his neck, I cut off the rest of his head and it goes flying. And I'm like, surprise me.
Get the hell out of there. And we made it back to Grandpa's
like his mom's house, and she need a bread house, and we're like, this is weird. So we get into the house, and she's like evil. She's like some evil witch lady, but when he's around, she's like...
When I get closer to the house gets smaller and smaller until the house is only probably like 3 feet tall. So I open the door to the house, and it looks like a fun house. There's little mirrors everywhere, colorful dangly shit from the roof, spinny stuff. It just looks like a big fun house. So I'm walking around, checking things out, and I hear a guy's voice. And it starts to get louder and louder until I finally see the person who's making the noise. And it turns out to be a little person. And this little person starts...
I've become lucid in many of them. So that's kind of cool, because I was
trying to open the door and run outside down through the field. So I'm still running and I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? This guy's going to catch me. So then I just got like an epiphany. And I was like, why don't I just flap my arms? And the next thing I knew, I was flying through the air. I don't know, it was pretty sweet.
I have sex with the planet Saturn. Realistically, like, I'm shooting up into like, out of our atmosphere. And I'm shooting like a beam, like, out of my body.
And bam, I woke up.